What is up, Spa City? Welcome to the Specific Chiropractic Center's podcast, the Spa City Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Grant Dennis, featuring all of the community leaders and people doing big things for the community of Hot Springs. Look forward to seeing you guys on the inside. Bobby Murray, BassMaster, legend this week on the Spa City Podcast. Career highlights: 1971 first BassMaster Classic champion at Lake Mead, two-time BassMaster Classic champion in 71 and 78, the 73 world champion. 98 was inducted into the National Sport Fishing Hall of Fame. In 2000, he was inducted into the Arkansas Outdoor Hall of Fame. 2001 first inductee class of the Pro Bass Fishing Hall of Fame. Favorite bait is the Sarah Spook. Bobby, I appreciate you being on the podcast today.
It's my pleasure.
You are undoubtedly a legend in the bass fishing.
Maybe that's just because I've lived so long.
Nonetheless, you are what some would say are the Leonidas of bass fishing. You are the legend. You've been around the longest and have won the most. And you are right here from Hot Springs. And we were talking a little bit off air. I don't think most people realize how many bass fishing legends live right here in Hot Springs.
It's absolutely the truth. It's kind of a unique little area that we have in central Arkansas with the different types of water that we have, and that has spawned out some of the best anglers that we've ever seen in professional bass fishing. You know, George Cochran, what's the other guy from Mount Ida?
Mark Davis, yeah.
I can remember Mark Davis as a child at Brady Mountain Boat Dock. He was eat up with fishing from the start. And I think that's really what does it around here. We got such an opportunity. We got water literally downtown, if you want to, you know, and not just water, some good fishing water.
Yeah. You
know, they've held the Pan American Games here this summer. 2026, they're going to hold the World Pan American Fishing Tournament on Lake Hamilton.
No kidding.
That's downtown Hot Springs. So
in 2026, you said?
2026.
Wow, okay.
Is when it's going to fit. It's the world's I mean, there'll be teams from South Africa, Europe, Canada, everything when it lands here. But back to your question, we just had such an opportunity as youngsters. And now Hot Springs was a lot different back in the 60s than it is right now. I mean, Hot Springs was a small town. And it's amazing how it's grown through my lifetime. And, you know, my dad was born here. And he used to tell me where downtown was. Downtown was a whole lot closer to the courthouse back then than it is now. And when I was in high school, junior high, I'd say junior high, you were out of town when you hit the 70-270 split out there.
Right, that was it.
And I can remember it used to be a big FINA station right there in the middle of it. My dad owned a antique store right there. My grandfather owned an antique store right across from the racetrack when I was in junior high. So it was just, it was a fun place to grow up, you know, and we had a lot of opportunity outdoors. If you like the outdoors, what better place could you be raised than right here back then? Because shoot, you could about hunt and fish anywhere you wanted to when I was a youngster.
5-minute drive from home.
Oh yeah, and my brother and I both just kind of caught on to the fishing and hunting deal, and always had somebody to go with, because he and I've been together since the womb. We're identical twins. I mean, people still get us mixed up today, and but we both had a wonderful time and made some transitions where, you know, today professional bass fishing, everybody aspires to be a professional bass fisherman. There's bass clubs in every town in Arkansas. Mm-hmm. Ain't one in it wouldn't like to make his living bass fishing. Well, I was right on the front of the professional scene. I won the very first BassMaster Classic that was held. That was back in '71, but there wasn't a lot of money in it. It's exponentially grown through the years. So I always had a job, and I chose to work inside the sporting goods industry. When I won the first BassMaster Classic, I was I was sales manager for everything from Jim Bagley Bait Company west of the Mississippi. I had it all the way to California.
So you were selling baits at the same time you were fishing?
Yes. Ever since that I was in, when was it, 68? 68 or 9, Jim Bagley flew into Hot Springs in his helicopter and landed right over there on Albert Pike. Used to be an Albert Pike Supply of Sporting Goods. I was working there at that time, and I met Jim Bagley, and he hired me. And then I was working for him when I won the first Classic, and I was working vice president for Hodgeport Boat Company when I won the second one, and then formed my own sales company for 22 years here in Hot Springs.
So for those who don't know, the Bassmaster Classic, for all intents and purposes, is the World Series of bass fishing in baseball, is the Super Bowl for football. It's the granddaddy of them all. It's what all bass fishermen aspire to win. If you don't mind me asking, what did the first Bassmaster Classic in '71, if you don't mind sharing, what was the payout on that?
Okay, there was 24 anglers, okay? We all flew to Atlanta. We didn't know where we were going.
You didn't know
where we were. It was a mystery tournament.
No kidding.
So all 24 anglers from all over the United States flew to Atlanta. That's where we met. We had our initial banquet there and everything. And then the next morning, we all got on it with that. Well, one thing they did before while we were there at that banquet that night, they put a limit on us, 10 pounds of tackle. You can only bring 10. Now, you can bring your rods and reels, but fishing tackle, 10 pounds. And they sent everybody a tackle box to use to put this 10 pounds in. Well, that night when we were all in Atlanta, they had a weigh-in. They'd take that tackle box and put it on a scale. They already preset it to know what the tackle box weighed. If it weighed an ounce over 10 pounds, they just opened it up, and Ray Scott would reach in there and, here's an old Big O I think I'll take out. Yeah, that'll get it down. I sold one of those Big O's the other day for $1,000.
No kidding.
They're worth $1,000 a piece now. So when we got on the airplane the next morning, it got to 10,000 feet. They told us we were going to Las Vegas. Nobody had ever seen Lake Powell. It was truly the mystery deal. Never been one like that since. But it was a cool idea, and Ray was a pioneer in so many ways at BASS, and I just kind of tagged along and stayed viable in it. And I enjoy the competition. My brother is not a competitive angler at all. He's as good a fisherman as I am, but he just doesn't have that competitive edge that I had. And so we both stayed in the industry all our life, and then came back together back in the 80s and formed our sales company up there. And everybody says that I was forced. I was truly blessed. Now, believe me, I know that in my heart. But for all the young people out there that aspire today, if you want to succeed, you got to get to the intersection of hard work and opportunity. You know who lives at that intersection? Old Lucky. Everybody that you call lucky lives right there. And so if you can aspire to do whatever, if you want to do anything, aspire to be as good as you can be. My dad told me that at a very early age.
Hard work and opportunity. I love that. Right at the intersection
That's where
of
it
that.
all happens. If you're a hard worker and you can get to where there's some opportunity, you're going to go up in life. And it doesn't matter if you're a carpenter, a mechanic, an angler, a attorney, any profession. But if you just put yourself in that situation and try your doggonest to take care of it, you got to have some character. Your words got to mean something. Follow through. Always be early to an appointment. When I was in my sales company and we were representing all these different manufacturers, just the fact that I was always early made me about $500,000. Because when that other guy was late or no-show, I was early.
Right.
And he got to see my goods.
Yeah.
And so
It's
been a wonderful ride for me, and I worked till I was 70. I'm 78 now, and enjoy playing with the deer. I fish a couple of days a week when the weather's good, and still do some consulting, still do a little bit of lure design. I can't ever stop. As long as I'm alive, I'm addicted, So it's been quite a ride.
So y'all get on a plane from Atlanta and y'all fly out to Lake Mead in Las Vegas.
Fly to Las Vegas.
You've never fished the lake. You've never seen
nobody
it before.
on the plane had ever seen it. Never. It was, all this thing started back east. I mean, we'd never got to Oklahoma back then. I mean, this was BASS had been around 2 years then. It's just getting started, and they were looking for something to get some national headlines. That's what Ray's deal was. And he had a buddy. Ray was an insurance salesman, Ray Scott was. And he had a buddy that worked for Miller High Life Beer Company.
Okay.
So he got with Miller to sponsor this thing. That's who sponsored it, Miller High Life Beer Company.
Sponsored the first BassMasters.
Sponsored the first BassMasters Classic, and got with Miller, who had done a bunch of stuff in Las Vegas, and they knew the people at the dunes out there. That Abe Schiller was at the dunes. He dressed every day just like Roy Rogers. I could see him today. He was dressed up just like Roy Rogers, a Jewish guy, by the way.
Yeah.
And he was an angler, and the Dunes was a hotel that hosted it. It was wonderful. I mean, it made every headline, every outdoor rider see, because we had 24 anglers and 24 outdoor riders went on this thing.
Okay.
So everybody had an outdoor rider with them. Every day you fished with a different outdoor rider. They got stories for a year and a half.
Absolutely. Lots of content there.
I mean, and then it just blew up all across the country, and like I said, I was just smart enough to hang on for everything I had.
So you go out there, you win that darn tournament, and you make a couple $1,000s?
$10,000
for the first BassMaster.
That was in 1971.
That's a lot of money back then.
That's a lot of money. You know what second place got?
I can't even give it 2,000.
Nothing. It was winner take all.
Second place didn't get
you
nothing.
got a pat on the back, and we'll see you next year.
That's a great testament to life.
That's it.
You're either first or you're last.
That's right. So there was a lot of things happened there at the first BASS when it was really getting started. That's why it's they've done so much for anglers across the country with catch and release and the Bass Federation, and I mean, for people that love to fish, it doesn't matter if you catch crappie or catfish. BASS has helped fishing across this country with a Clean Water Act and all. I mean, BASS did all that.
Yeah.
People don't realize that without BASS, some rivers could still catch on fire in this country. We were dumping so much junk in it.
Yeah. I would be remiss if I didn't ask. when you see all the technology out there across the fishing industry now, when you see all the live scopes and you see the power poles and you see the newest, things.
They got, you dream it, they got
They
it.
got it. Yeah, I mean, just having innovated the industry in some respects since '71. How do you feel about that? Do you like it? Do you not like it?
Well, let me put it this way. When back, you're talking about sonar, 2D sonar, and all this stuff.
Some would say it's cheating.
Well, that stuff came from World War II. That's where all that came from. Carl Lawrence. I bought my first depth finder in 1968. There was not one in Arkansas.
So there was depth finders around then.
1968, I went to Little Rock to J.C. Penney's and ordered me a little green box about that square. Since that day, I've tried to stay on the leading edge. You know how many depth finders I got sitting on shelves in my building? I got 8 or 10 depth finders back there. I've just, every time something new comes, I'm the first guy to buy. You got to stay up with it. If you get good at it, if you can use the technology that's out there just today, not in the future, today, you're able to go to the lake, you're able to make a cast, you're able to watch your bait going down through the water, you watch it move when you move your pole, you watch the fish swim up to it, you jiggle it twice, you watch the fish hit it, and you wind him in. It's like playing a video game. It is. And you can see a tree, a crappie, and you can drop a little jig in there and you can pick them off one by one. Because you know why people don't crappie fish so much? They get hung up all the time because they got to get close to the brush.
Yeah.
With that new technology, you can have a tree here and you can make a jig do this. You can walk it right through that brush.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It's amazing.
Do you think that's good for the industry or bad?
Oh, it's good because we're never going to. Do you know what it costs? Just the transducer for a live scope, okay? I'm not talking about the head or none of that. Just the transducer costs $1,700.
Wow.
We're not talking about the unit. We're just talking about
just the
something
power
to
to
put the transducer on where you can use your spot lock is another $1,000. Then you got to buy the head, and you can spend whatever you want. Just the bigger the head, the more money you're spending. And, but taking spot lock, fish reveal on the new Lowrance stuff is absolutely unbelievable. And then that Garmin with the live scope, if you can marry all of that together, you may not catch 50 every time you go, but 50 are going to have a chance to bite it every time you go because you can fish around that many fish.
I'm also seeing now a lot of, there used to not be so much of a fishing presence in the high schools. Now we're seeing these fishing teams with the high schools, and we're seeing these college fishing teams. Do you have any idea where that started or who started that movement?
Well, BASS had a deal that they worked with young high school anglers there for about 5 or 6 years. Now, I've been out of that circle for a while, so I don't really know where they're going with it now. But, there is, without a doubt, the opportunity for a youngster in high school that likes to fish, that has some skill, okay? And skill is more than getting a bait wet. I'm talking about ability to find, locate, know something about what you're going after. Migration of fish, water color, temperature, and everything. But a chance to get a college education fishing now. And not just anywhere, in some major universities across this country. A college, you know what it's worth at Stanford?
Oh, yeah, it's a lot.
It's a $500,000, buddy.
Yeah.
So you've got some opportunity there for kids that like to do that now. But it's back. I can imagine what it'd been like if I had a high school fishing team when I was there. I was always the guy skipping class going fishing.
Yeah.
I'd have got more credit when I was in high school. But it's it's been a wonderful ride for me. I've kind of watched it all, watched this industry from the competitive side, from the business side, from the creative side. My brother and I have stuck our finger in the outdoor industry about every way you can, in the hunting as well as the fishing.
Yeah.
You know, so we've lived the dream that most people do, and was able to make a pretty doggone good living.
No,
at
that's
it.
great. You know, and I think a lot of people that I talk to when I talk about fishing, one of the reasons why most people don't get into fishing is because of how hard it is. And I think that, you know, even sometimes for some people, just not the education or knowledge to bait a hook or know how to brim fish or know how to bobber fish. But, you know, if for someone out there who maybe is like, you know, I'd like to get into fishing, but I don't know where to start. What would you give as advice for somebody?
Well, try to find some organization locally that you can participate in. A bass club, up in the village. There's a bunch of anglers up there, never fished, retired, and they got the village anglers up there. I've got to go talk to them next month. So if you can get around a group of like-minded individuals, then everything you learn off of them, and go at it at an open mind. You know, some days fish just commit suicide. Some days they don't bite at all. I would suggest using every tool that you can find to your advantage when you're fishing. Now, as anglers, I can almost get up in the morning and feel what the humidity is, the barometric pressure is, you know, those days that you just know they're biting. But for beginning anglers that don't have that, haven't lived it for 70 years like I have,
Right.
they can get it now on their telephone. There's an algorithm for fishing, an algorithm for fishing, fish activity on your telephone that will tell you that the days that the fish are more likely to bite than others.
Yeah, and you know, when you just mentioned walking outside and you just feel the pressure and the temperature and you go, I just know they're biting. What is the ideal if someone was
Well, it's hard to put. You know, I'll give you some
General
sound stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
Fish are photosensitive. Okay, they don't have any eyelids.
Yeah.
They're photosensitive. They move better on low pressure or barometric pressure that is falling. They get a little more active when that's happening. They're a creature that likes to ambush their prey. So any structure, rocks, logs, stumps, bushes, that's where he moves when he's setting up to feed on something. So you just learn all those little things, and you know, now I just look at something and
You just know.
Well, I've had lots of practice.
Right,
You know,
right.
I've fished in Central America. I've fished in the Arctic Circle. I've fished in Hawaii. I've fished in Spain. I've been all over this hemisphere. Fish for everything, every kind of fish that you can, not just bass fishing. If you're just bass fishing, you're wasting a lot of time fishing for some really neat stuff. Peacock bass, rainbow trout and salmon in the Arctic, tarpon. Caught a 964-pound giant tuna in Gloucester, Massachusetts, back in the 78 or 9. You know, so I've had the ability to fish all over this hemisphere, and let me tell you, there's opportunity everywhere.
What is I know this is probably hard to maybe nail down, but what is maybe your favorite place of all the places you've ever fished, what was the one that you would point to say that was my favorite?
The Connecticut River. It's north of Barrow, Alaska. When God goes fishing, this is where he goes.
Okay.
This is the place. It's at the top of the world. It's total wilderness. You start in a jet, you end up on a prop plane, then you go to a float plane just to get there, and you get in that river and you float it all the way to the Bering Sea. And rainbow trout, king salmon like that. I mean, everything is hungry. Everything's biting.
Everything you throw in the water gets gobbled up.
I mean, if you don't want to catch one, do not throw out there. Because if you throw out there, you're going to have about a 20-minute fight on your hands.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that you said that's in Barrow, Alaska.
That's north of Barrow, Alaska. We fly to Anchorage, then up to Barrow, and then we get on a float plane. We fly to Anchorage on a jet, then you get on a prop plane, fly to Barrow, and then you get on a float plane and fly in.
Wow. So it's a trek to get in there.
Well, you're at the top of the world.
Yeah.
I mean, and it's stunning.
Yeah.
You know, when it's pretty, it's unbelievable. Now, it rains 50% of the time up there.
Yeah, yeah.
So don't leave your reindeer
Right,
home.
right. Now, I know that when we were talking a little bit off air that your favorite bait's the Sarah Spook, which you had said is the reason most throw it is because they just like to watch it move.
That's it.
Is that why it's your favorite, or is
I like to pull fish to the edge of their domain. When you can get one to hit on top water, you get to see it happen.
You got them.
You know, and to pull one up on a spook, and you can draw fish from great distances and catch so many different species on a spook. You can catch redfish, you can catch bass, you know, you can catch stripers, you can catch white bass. I mean, speckled trout. I mean, that side-to-side motion as it coming on the top there, everything looks at it and said, man, that's an easy meal right there. And when they make such big explosions on it every once in a while, it's just a fun bait to throw. And learning how to walk it, and make it do its dance and not come to you. Fish it on a slack line, you make it sit there and look like it's just standing in place doing that. So it's all kinds of little tricks that you can do with it, but it's fun when you can get them to hit that top water.
Yeah, I bet. No, that's I got to say, you know, Dad and I went to Jimmy Houston's ranch out there in Oklahoma. And, of course, we could have, like you had said, they're really hungry out there. No matter what you throw out there, just about, they'll eat it. But we were fishing that day with a red fin, a cotton cordell red fin, which is a topwater, as you know. And, you know, that thing would hit the water, and you'd wait till the rings would expand. You'd hit it once or twice, and they'd hammer that thing. And I got to say, there's nothing funner than a topwater bait, to your point, when they're hitting those things. That's about as good as it gets. Speaking of as good as it gets, you know, when we look at all these accolades, you know, you got, and by the way, if you guys didn't know, bass fishing actually has Carlisle makes these baseball cards, which are super, super cool. And it's got a lot of accolades on here. It's got a lot of things you've accomplished with the National Sport Fishing Hall of Fame, the Outdoor Hall of Fame. When you look down through this list of things, what kind of sticks out to you as the thing you're most proud of?
Oh, probably the Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, being in that first class. You know, our Arkansas Outdoor Hall of Fame and the Sport Fishing Hall of Fame have been around for years and years, and they're wonderful accolades. I appreciate what they've done for me. But being in that first class of the Professional Bass Fishing Hall of Fame, when you got everybody to pick from, when there hadn't been picked over, and you only pick 8 or 9 people to go in that first class, it's who's who of bass fishing went in. Myself, Jimmy Houston, Roland Martin, Bill Dance, Ray Scott, Forrest Wood, Homer Circle, outdoor writer. I mean, that first class was truly truly special. So that's the one that means the most to me.
Yeah, no, I love that. Well, listen, I just appreciate you coming and spending some time with us here today on the podcast, talking a little bit about fishing in Arkansas and the history and Hot Springs. And, on this podcast, I talked to a lot of the people who are from Hot Springs doing big things for the community. And to your point, what we kind of started with, come full circle, people don't realize how fortunate we are here in Hot Springs to have, listen, when you go out there and fish, you might even win money just by catching a fish with a tag on it.
That's right. I mean, hey, how many people buy a lottery ticket in a day? I'd a lot rather be fishing for a tag fish.
I guarantee you,
it'd be a lot more fun.
I guarantee if I win the $100,000 fish too, that's a good day. A $50,000 fish, or there's all these different tags on these fish, and I think it's a good way, obviously, to get more people out fishing. And I think since 2020, with the COVID pandemic, and I think it's really kind of revamped the fishing industry. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I mean, we're just blessed to be living in Hot Springs, Arkansas, let me tell you. I wake up every day and look at the news of New York City and go, my goodness gracious.
That's right.
They just don't know how lucky we really are.
Yeah. Well, listen, Bobby, I just super appreciate you coming on here, spending some time with us. We really enjoyed
My
it,
pleasure.
and I know our viewers will as well. Folks, that's going to wrap us up this week. And remember, in between this podcast episode and the next, go out there and fish. We are in the most prime part of the United States of America for fishing when it comes to all of the lakes at Ouachita and DeGray, Hamilton and Catherine, and all these different places. And remember, when you do support local, go out to the support and local lure stores, places like Trader Bill's and places like Southern Reel and all these places that are serving some local product there. Just remember to do that. It's really, really important. And until next time on the Spa City Podcast, we will see you next time. Thanks for joining us this week, guys, on another episode of the Spa City Podcast. And remember to subscribe to everywhere you listen to podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, and check us out on social media. And remember to support all of our community members we have on this podcast and everybody who's doing big things in the community of Hot Springs. And until next time, see you.